All right, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It is day 2 of our 5-day blood sugar challenge. I'm getting my screen arranged here so you can all see my slides. But go ahead, say hello if you are live with me right now. I'm excited to dive into day 2. I hope you guys are enjoying the challenge so far. I know we sure are enjoying hanging out with all of you and supporting you all. You guys have been a really fun audience this week, so thank you for hanging out with us. Oh, yep, we got people. We got Brenda and Bill and Dell and Carrie. Hello, everybody. Sorry if I'm missing your name. Oh, yep, there we go. Sarah, Karen, Vicky. Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for letting me know you can hear me and see me. Hi, Farah. Stephen, Jackie, Mary, Julie, Elaine, Jennifer. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, everybody. Per usual, we'll hang out for just a couple minutes here while we wait for other people to find us. Um, just because it takes people to find these Facebook Lives. But yeah, it's day 2. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully, y'all are staying nice and cool. Where I live this week, we were blessed with some cooler temperatures. I live in Sacramento, California, which is pretty notorious for warm weather and hot summers. Hi, everybody. And for the last 3 days, we have been blessed with like the temperatures have been in the 80s and 90s, which sounds maybe warm for some people, but it feels really nice here. We don't have humidity, so 80s are beautiful here. And even 90s is totally manageable for someone like me, anyways, who loves the heat. But we were having the whole month of July was mostly triple digits, like mostly like 107, 106, just back to back for weeks on end. So yeah, I'm enjoying some cooler weather. Again, we're just hopping on. We're going to hang out for a couple more minutes while everybody finds this Facebook Live. This is day 2 of the 5-day challenge. I would love to hear, I know you guys shared already in the Facebook group, and we've been loving to see all your numbers rolling in from day 1. But I would love to hear here in the Facebook chat while we're hanging out waiting. Tell me like your big aha moments from yesterday, your favorite part of yesterday. Type me maybe in the chat. Type me if you were surprised by your blood sugar reading yesterday when you tested before and after your meal. Type me if you were surprised by how much your blood sugar spiked. We saw, and I didn't define what a spike is yet. I'm going to do that today. So today I'm going to teach you guys what a spike is in your blood sugar, which we want to avoid. I'm seeing lots of me's rolling in. Yeah. So we didn't tell you that yesterday. So as far as you guys know right now, you might think a 70-point increase is perfectly fine. You might think a 100-point increase in your blood sugar is perfectly fine. So today we'll define that and I'll give you some guidelines so we can get that number way down, which is what's so cool about this 5-day challenge is that we can literally help you get your blood sugar down as early as day 2. So that's today. So I'm really, really excited. We also have some really good stuff we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about macronutrients, myths, and misconceptions. I'm reading through the comments, and you guys are sharing all kinds of awesome wins or just shares from yesterday, really, and aha moments like the dawn phenomenon we talked extensively about yesterday. Vicky is sharing that she's behind a day. She watched the replay last night, so I'll start today. Yeah, perfect, Vicky. And what you can do is if you're just joining us today, we're only asking you to test 1 meal a day, and we teach you how to do that on day 1. So what you can do if you want to catch up is you can test lunch as if it's your day 1 test, and then you can test dinner for day 2. So if you wanted to do it that way, that's an option. Yeah, perfect. So a couple of you guys are just joining us. No problem. That's why the replays are available. So there's absolutely no problem if you're joining us a day late. As a reminder, we want the way that I've laid out the trainings, they really build on each other. And so ideally you watch them in order. So if you're joining late, go back and watch day 1. I mean, stay here if you're here now. But if you're watching the replay, we want you to watch them in order. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Because we're going to get into some pretty complex topics by tomorrow. And what you learn today is going to really help you so that you understand what I teach you tomorrow. And what you learn on day 3 is going to help you understand what I teach you on day 4. So yesterday we covered dawn phenomenon, which is what we can kind of point our finger at when we're talking about those high morning numbers, those high fasting blood sugar readings. So when you prick your finger at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, we know that if your blood sugar's high, which we expect it to be if you have insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, if your blood sugar's high in the morning, it's a reflection of, it's not an accurate reflection of dinner from the night before. It is actually related to cortisol, which is what we talked extensively about yesterday. So this is called dawn phenomenon. When cortisol rises in the morning, as it does in all humans, it causes an increase in blood sugar. So that's why when you test your blood sugar first thing in the morning, it's often very high. In fact, for my clients, their fasting blood sugar in the morning is normally the highest number of the entire day. And the reason that is because we do such a good job of eating in a way during the day that doesn't spike their blood sugar, which I'm going to teach you to do today. That the only number that's the highest is the morning number, because it's driven by cortisol, not food, right? We can control the daytime numbers more than we can control that morning number. So a lot of people don't even test the morning number anymore. A lot of my clients choose not to because it's not very insightful. It can be a source of discouragement. And it's really not all that important because it's not related to what we're eating, which is what's in our control, right? We can't control the fact that cortisol is released in the morning, but we can control our lunchtime and our dinner time and what we're eating throughout the day and how our blood sugar responds to that. So awesome. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for showing up again today. I think we'll go ahead and get into our day 2 training. So today we're going to talk about macros, myths, and misconceptions. So I want to start with talking about the macronutrients, because I think a lot of people talk about macros, and you might hear that word floating around and not be familiar with what the macros actually are. So when people are talking about macros, they're talking about the 3 macronutrients. All of our food is made up of a combination of these 3 macronutrients. So they are carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And what I'm showing you on this graph right here is the impact that each of these 3 macronutrients has on our blood sugar. This is really, really important, and actually it's completely foundational to your understanding of how to eat for your blood sugar. So if you've ever wondered why carbohydrates even matter, this is why. This is why carbohydrates matter when it comes to managing your blood sugar. Because if you look at this graph, the carbohydrates are listed in that yellowish green color. And what you're looking at is that carbohydrates can spike our blood sugar a lot. Of the 3 macronutrients, the carbohydrates spike our blood sugar the most by a long shot. And then you see protein listed in orange, and protein has kind of a moderate impact on our blood sugar. And then you see fat in blue, and fat is the 3rd macronutrient, and it basically has no effect on our blood sugar. So I'll talk about what this means in practice. And I also want to talk about the connection with carbohydrates. So the reason that carbohydrates can impact our blood sugar so significantly, hi Christine, is that all carbohydrates are chains of sugar molecules. So and it doesn't matter if they taste sweet or they taste savory. This is why bread, which is savory, spikes our blood sugar. This is why pasta spikes our blood sugar. This is why potatoes spike our blood sugar. So it doesn't matter if the carbohydrates are sweet or savory. It doesn't matter if we're talking about, it doesn't actually matter also if they are natural or processed. It doesn't matter. They're all chains of sugar molecules. And as they go through the digestive process, they're going to be broken down and flood our bloodstream as sugar molecules. So that's the carbohydrate connection. Again, it doesn't matter if we're talking about, natural sources of carbohydrates versus, breads and pastas and cookies and cakes. It doesn't matter if they're savory or sweet. It could be potatoes. It can be brown rice. It does not matter. These foods that are really high in carbohydrates are going to flood your bloodstream with sugar because all carbohydrates are chains of sugar molecules. The only exception to that is fiber, which in the US, we can include fiber in the total carbohydrate count on food labels, and fiber is not digested and does not enter the bloodstream as sugar. So the only exception to this rule is the fiber, meaning it does make sense if you're someone who's really familiar with tracking carbohydrates. It does make sense to subtract the fiber and to track net carbs, is what we would call it when you subtract the fiber instead of total carbs, because we don't digest the fiber. But otherwise, I am telling you, and you can, again, what we taught you yesterday and how to test your blood sugar, you don't have to take what I'm saying blindly. You can test things for yourself. So if you go, oh, I really don't believe, Mallory, that rice is going to spike me, or that potatoes are going to spike me, or that pasta or bread is going to spike me, test it. Test before and after and see what happens. I am telling you, I have worn a CGM many times, and even brown rice. I saw conversations yesterday in the Facebook group about, oh, white rice spikes me, I'll try brown rice. I'm telling you, I've tested it on myself and my blood sugar spikes a lot, and I have no history of diabetes. So imagine someone who's got diabetes and blood sugar issues, their blood sugar reacts even stronger. My blood sugar will spike 100 whopping points when I eat some brown rice. And white rice, it really doesn't make a difference for me. So will you guys let me know if this makes sense so far? I'm going to go back to the last slide really quick, and I'm going to encourage you guys to take a picture of this if it's new to you. But this is the effect of the 3 macronutrients on blood sugar, and this is really foundational to your understanding about what you should be eating to lower your blood sugar and which foods will spike your blood sugar the most. You guys are saying, yes, this makes sense. So foods that are high in carbohydrates, regardless of the source. I'm not trying to demonize healthy whole foods, but for example, sweet potatoes. Are they healthy from a vitamin and mineral and fiber perspective? Yes. Are they healthy from a blood sugar perspective? No. And that's the same. It's same thing with rice, same thing with oatmeal, same thing with any high carbohydrate food. Just because it's high in vitamins and minerals and fiber does not mean it's healthy from a blood sugar perspective. So when you can kind of grasp that and also trust that we can get all those vitamins and minerals and fiber from low carbohydrate foods. So really what we need to be doing is focusing our effort and our meals around higher protein and fat and lower carbohydrates. So, okay, you guys are saying that this makes sense. And then just remembering, I saw someone say, is honey a carb? Sugar is a carbohydrate. So when people say they're cutting sugar and carbs, it's fine to say that, but it's a little bit redundant because all sugar is a carb. So starches and sugars are both considered carbohydrates. So yeah, white sugar, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about white sugar or honey, something natural like honey, or coconut sugar or molasses. There's all sorts of, beet sugar. There are so many sources of, whole food, more natural sugars, and they're going to have the same effect. So again, our bodies don't discriminate. Our bodies don't differentiate between how we process these carbohydrates. Obviously, whole foods are going to enter our bloodstream a little more slowly than something like white flour or juice compared to a whole piece of fruit, but you're still consuming those high carbohydrate foods. So this brings me to my next point, which is from a blood sugar perspective, not all calories are created equal. So what I mean by that is of the 3 macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbs, they have different amounts of calories, okay? So when people are really hyper focused on eating a low calorie diet, what they often do unintentionally is they eat a high carbohydrate diet, because fat is the macronutrient that has the most calories per gram. So a lot of people, when they're trying to cut calories, they go low fat, right? I mean, I'm sure most of you here have tried a low fat diet because it's very, very common. So if you've ever tried to cut calories, you probably went low fat, and guess what you just eliminated? The macronutrient, the one macronutrient that doesn't impact your blood sugar, right? Going back, you go on a low fat diet, guess what you just got rid of? Now you're stuck with carbs and protein, which impact your blood sugar the most. So low fat diets are actually terrible from a blood sugar perspective. And when I talk about including more fats, I'm talking about natural fats. I'm not talking about canola oil. I'm not talking about margarine and all these fake fats or highly processed fats. I'm talking about natural fats like butter and choosing maybe ribeye instead of, or the 80/20 ground beef instead of the extra lean ground beef, right? It's just, you don't have to you don't have to eat super high fat, but we certainly should not be avoiding it. It's the macronutrient that doesn't impact our blood sugar. It's very satiating. It's going to keep you fuller longer. And it's a really good choice from a blood sugar perspective to include some fat with your meals, and to bump up both fat and protein because of exactly what we're seeing on this graph. And I want to be clear too, this is not theory. Okay, there's a lot of theories floating around about blood sugar and insulin resistance and diabetes. This is not a theory. This is fact. This is rooted in science. And you can find graphs that look just like this all over the internet. Again, this is fact, not theory. So I want to be really, really clear about that because I know a lot of people are hearing the plant-based kind of propaganda out there and plant-based recommendations for people with type 2 diabetes. And I'm telling you, guess what happens when you go plant-based? You eliminate really valuable sources of protein that have basically zero carbs. All muscle meat, so beef, pork, chicken, lamb, fish, zero carbs, pure protein and fat. So when you go plant-based, you eliminate the protein and fat, and what are you left with? Rice, beans, quinoa, these really carb heavy foods. Okay, so it does not make sense to go on a plant-based diet for your blood sugar. So what I was saying earlier, not all calories are created equal. So from a blood sugar perspective, I like to put this into an example for you. So for example, you can take two meals that are exactly the same in calories, and each meal will have a completely different impact on your blood sugar based on the macronutrient composition. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say that it's breakfast. Let's do a breakfast meal. Let's say both meals are 500 calories, but one meal is a high carbohydrate, low fat meal. Okay, so let's do the bowl of oatmeal. So many of you tested yesterday. Bowl of oatmeal, super high carb, very minimal protein and fat. 500 calories. Another meal, super low carb, super high protein, moderate fat. I'm not going to say high fat, but there's definitely more fat. So this could be 2 or 3 eggs, couple slices of bacon, half an avocado, cooked up in butter, okay, or some kind of a natural fat, avocado oil. Both 500 calories, okay? One of them is going to spike the heck out of your blood sugar. The other one is going to keep you right here, okay? And so that's why I really wanted you guys to test a meal yesterday that was higher in carbs, because that's how you guys are being told to eat. I asked you guys yesterday, the most common advice being given to this group of people with type 2 diabetes, the most common nutrition advice is to eat 45 or 60 grams of carbs per meal. So a bunch of you guys sat down yesterday and tested a meal before and after, and you tested a meal that had 45 grams of carbs or 60 grams of carbs, or you tested foods like oatmeal or sweet potatoes, quinoa, rice and beans. You tested these foods that are being recommended to people with diabetes. And guys, I'm telling you, what we saw yesterday were some really big spikes in blood sugar. So there's a way to eat that does not spike your blood sugar really, really high. There's a way to eat that you don't have to limit your portions or limit your calories. You can eat a nice, big, satiating meal that fills you up, and your blood sugar is going to stay right here. And that's how you're going to reverse the insulin resistance, get your blood sugar down, and in 3 months, really blow your doctor away at your next A1C checkup. So what's cool about this is it doesn't require portion control. And today I'm going to give you guys some guidelines that don't require you guys to limit your portions. I'm seeing so many of my clients in here. Thanks you guys for being here, Sarah, Karen, everybody. Yeah, and also in the chat right now, who I'm saying hi to are some of my members of the Type 2 Transformation Program. So you see, and Christine, I saw sharing her story. I don't want to distract myself, so I'm trying to stay on track, but please read through their comments. They are sharing their wins and their success stories and the progress that they've made following what we teach you guys this week. So that all being said, I want to really emphasize something, which is a lot of people don't realize that the diets that they're following are really high in carbohydrates. So for example, I already mentioned this, but when you go vegan or vegetarian or plant-based, you're actually following a high carbohydrate diet. It just comes with the territory. If you are not eating, look, this is how I'll say it. Animal protein is very low in carbohydrates. In fact, all the muscle meats, like I said earlier, beef, chicken, pork, fish, lamb, bison, wild game, whatever it is, all those muscle meats, zero carbohydrates. You guys, those are like the best choices to fill up on. And so when you go vegan, vegetarian, or plant-based and you replace these low carbohydrate foods with things like beans and rice, quinoa, I'm trying to think what else are plant-based foods, but you know, a bunch of potatoes, oatmeal instead of the eggs and bacon, or you know, eggs and sausage in the morning. You take out those really low carbohydrate foods, and now you're adding foods that are astronomically high in carbohydrates, and actually low in protein. So it's very much it's a misconception that beans are a good source of protein. It's a misconception that brown rice and beans are a good source of protein, that quinoa is a good source of protein. These are not good sources of protein. These are good sources of carbohydrates. So I want to be really clear about that. Terry's also sharing her story with you in the chat. Hi, Terry. Yeah, read through those comments too. But yeah, so just to be clear, vegan, vegetarian, or plant-based diet is a high carbohydrate diet. Not a good choice for someone with high blood sugar. I talked about why a low-fat diet or a low-calorie diet is also high in carbohydrates, because you take out fat, right? If you take out fat, you're left with protein and carbs. And a lot of times we end up, if we're trying to follow a low-fat diet, we also accidentally take out some good sources of protein. So yeah, I know, I understand, again, I understand that the plant-based diet is being pushed really hard right now for people with type 2 diabetes. I think it's really unfortunate. I think it's keeping a lot of people stuck and dependent on medications when they could be getting results. Like we're going to show you guys, we're going to get you results this week. In 1 week, we will get you results if you follow what we teach you. So it's just interesting, you know, to see so many people spinning their wheels. Hi, Kate. Kate's also sharing her story in the chat. And so another point I want to make, this is a really good tip, which is avoiding naked carbs. So what do I mean by that? When we say avoid naked carbs, we mean avoid foods that are really high in carbohydrates without any protein or fat to go along with it. The reason being that protein and fat really act like a buffer for the carbohydrates that you eat. They're going to blunt the impact that those carbs have on your blood sugar. So I can't tell you how many clients of mine, usually it's within the first couple weeks of working together when they're still learning, right? And they'll eat something and they go, wow, I only had a bite, right? I only had a bite of my husband's French fries or potato chips, or I only had a bite of something that's high in carbs. I don't understand how that spiked my blood sugar 50 points from one bite, you know, or whatever it is. It's a good learning lesson, because what we tell them is you ate it on an empty stomach. You didn't have any protein or fat with it. There was nothing to buffer it, right? So think of protein and fat like buffers that are going to blunt the impact from the carbs that you eat. Now, that's not me saying go ahead and eat a big bowl of potatoes as long as you have protein and fat with it, or eat a big bowl of pasta as long as you have protein and fat with it. But there's definitely a difference in how your blood sugar is going to respond when you do have protein and fat versus when you don't. And so one of the worst things you can do is eat a high carbohydrate food on an empty stomach. And the best thing you can do for your blood sugar is if and when you are going to dabble in some high carbohydrates food, because that's life and we do not expect perfection 100% of the time. Perfection 100% of the time is not required. But if and when you're going to have a bowl of pasta or have some rice or have a dessert, really fill up on some animal protein and fat first, and it's going to really mitigate the blood sugar spike. So avoiding naked carbs, you've probably heard this. This is actually kind of common advice. Like maybe your dietitian will say, don't eat an apple with peanut butter. I would go a little further than that. I really like to see people including animal protein and not just peanut butter or yogurt or something. I would prefer to see you guys, because in my experience working with hundreds or actually thousands of people at this point through the 5-day challenge, but working with people, there's a big difference between adding a little peanut butter or yogurt to your apple versus having a couple eggs or some jerky or a steak or some chicken or whatever it is. Some animal protein makes a big difference in my experience. Okay, I'm going to read a quote that I absolutely love from Nina T. Schultz. She is an author of a really great book called The Big Fat Lie, or The Big Fat Surprise, actually, I believe it's called. And she's incredible. And what she says is, this goes along with our topic today. She says, when you understand that even healthy whole grains and fruit can cause your blood sugar to spike as much as simple sugars, that's the turning point, because while everyone agrees that sugar's bad, what's also bad are those seemingly healthy foods that instantly turn to sugar in your blood. I'm going to read it again because I love this quote so much. But it really is going along with what I shared earlier. It does not matter how nutrient dense the food is that we're talking about. It doesn't matter that sweet potatoes are loaded with vitamin A and fiber and all these nutrients. It doesn't matter that oatmeal is a good source of B vitamins and fiber. It doesn't matter how many vitamins and minerals and fiber these foods have. If they're high in carbohydrates, they will spike your blood sugar. It doesn't matter if they're natural or if they're processed. So again, when you understand that even healthy whole grains and fruit can cause blood sugar to spike as much as simple sugar, like white sugar, that's the turning point, because while everyone agrees that sugar's bad, what's also bad are those seemingly healthy foods that instantly turn to sugar in your blood. So I hope you guys have kind of a better understanding at this point of how these high carbohydrate foods are impacting your blood sugar, and also connecting the dots that maybe you thought, this is really common, maybe you thought you were on a low carb diet, and maybe you are eating lower carb than you were before, right? Maybe before your diagnosis you were eating 300 or 500 grams of carbs a day. So now when you limit it to 60 grams per meal, you're eating a lot less carbs, you know? But I will tell you, a lot of people, I think, that are spinning their wheels. What's happening is they think they're on a low carb diet, but they're still eating oatmeal for breakfast, rice and beans for lunch, quinoa bowls for dinner, fruit as a snack all day long. And that's not, I mean, there's no definition or consensus on what a low carb diet is, but I'm telling you, in my strong opinion, that's not it. So a low carbohydrate looks a lot different and probably a lot lower than what you might be doing if you're still struggling with your blood sugar. Okay, so this brings me to what we're going to work on today and throughout the rest of the week. So I created a little 3-column meal maker here on my screen, and don't worry, this is coming out to your email later today, and it's posted in the Facebook group so you can refer back to it. But basically I promised you I would teach you how to get your blood sugar down as early as day 2. And this is how we're going to do it. So everybody here is going to follow the guidelines. What you're going to do is, and don't worry if you can't see this. Again, it's up in the Facebook group and it'll be sent to you via email, but we'll talk through it a little bit here. And you're going to pick one item, at least one item from each column. Okay. So the first column, we have your animal source protein. So if you're plant-based, you can't exactly follow this list. If you're strict vegan or vegetarian, I will say that if you are a little bit more flexible, if you're a vegetarian that eats eggs or fish or seafood, those foods are on this list. So you can follow these guidelines. Unfortunately, those of you who are like very strict vegan are not going to be able to follow these guidelines, just to be clear. So I also want to be clear that this is not a comprehensive list. This is for the sake of our 5 day challenge, and just keeping it as simple as possible to get you all results. So the first column is the animal source protein. Second column, low carb plant based foods, like low carb vegetables mostly. So I know a lot of people, are saying, what are you, you guys might have been thinking as I was talking, what are you promoting, carnivore? No, you don't have to go carnivore. We can include a nice variety and eat plenty of vegetables. They're just going to be the lower carb vegetables, okay? So that's what we've got in the second column. And then the third column are your natural healthy fats. We do not need to shy away from fat. It does not matter if you have high blood triglycerides and high cholesterol. I promise you that those are not to blame for your high cholesterol. So you can certainly include butter and bacon grease and animal fats, avocado oil. So again, I will go through this list. At the bottom of the list, there are approved additions. So these are other things that you're welcome to add into your meal. But the main thing about this list is we want you choosing one from each column, at least one from each column. So if you want to do a stir fry, you could do chicken and beef and a bunch of vegetables and cook it in avocado oil, right? So you can certainly mix and match and include as much as you like, but really important you have one from every column. So the first column, like I said, it's our animal source protein. So any animal source protein is perfect. So that includes beef, chicken, eggs, fish, goat, lamb, organ meats if you're someone who likes liver or or chicken giblets or whatever you like, pork, shellfish and mollusk, so that's like your shrimp and clams and mussels. I mean, aren't these beautiful foods? I can't imagine anyone complaining. These are really awesome foods. Sugar-free sausage or bacon. Ideally, we want to choose nitrate-free, ideally. But I understand if that's not available to you, it's not gonna cause any issues with your blood sugar. So sausage and bacon, as long as they're not like the maple bacon, right? Why do I feel like I'm playing like that Labrador? You guys have seen the maple bacon. Anyways, it went viral. It's really cute. You got to see it if you haven't seen it. Turkey, waterfowl, and wild game. Okay, so turkey, waterfowl would be like duck, right? Or goose. And then wild game would be like deer, bison, caribou, whatever it is. I've got clients in Alaska, and my client in Alaska who hunts, her husband hunts caribou and things like that. So those are your animal source foods. That's the first column. So you're going to pick one food from that. And I actually really want to encourage you guys to make that kind of the dominant part of your meal. Okay, these are like your essentially zero carbohydrate foods. These are not going to impact your blood sugar, and these are not going to impact your cholesterol for those of you who are worried about that. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So please stay tuned. We're going to talk about that tomorrow and on day 4. Second column, okay, we also want you choosing something from this column. So we've got lots of low carb plant foods, right? Lots of low carb vegetables mostly. So we have asparagus, avocado, which some people correct me and say it's a fruit, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. So basically all your cruciferous vegetables, also known as brassicas, are really low in carbohydrates. So that's like your broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, celery, cucumber, eggplant, green beans, leafy greens. So that's all your lettuces. When I say leafy greens, all your lettuces are leafy greens. So spinach, kale, iceberg lettuce, romaine, whatever it is. Lemons and limes. So you're certainly welcome to add lemon or lime to your meal. It's like one of my favorite ingredients is adding lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. Mushrooms, either you love them like me or you hate them, but mushrooms are totally a low carb, great choice. Olives, peppers. So if you like bell peppers or spicy peppers, like all of that's fine. Seaweed and zucchini. Again, I want to be clear, this is not a comprehensive list. Okay, this is just for the sake of the 5-day challenge, just keeping it really simple to get you guys results. Also, again, I just want to keep giving a shout out to all my clients in the chat right now who are answering questions. You guys are amazing. Yeah, you can definitely trust the advice coming from Christine and Terry and everyone in the chat right now. I shouldn't say everyone in the chat, but those members that I've already mentioned in the chat right now who are answering your questions. They've been working with me for a long time, so they do know what they're talking about. And then that last column, you've got your natural fats. So we've got avocado oil. I saw someone ask about canola oil. No, we absolutely want to avoid canola oil. And any other, quote, vegetable oil for that matter. I'll talk about that in just a second. But a good alternative to canola oil or any of those vegetable oils is avocado oil. Super neutral tasting, safe for high heat cooking. It's not rancid. It's a healthy natural fat. Avocado oil mayonnaise. So most mayonnaise are made from canola oils and other, quote, I'll put it in quotes because it's not a vegetable oils. Okay. These are not made from vegetables, but most mayonnaise are made from vegetable oils. So we want to avoid those and choose an avocado oil based mayonnaise. Bacon grease, butter, beautiful. Coconut oil, ghee, which is just clarified butter, lard, MCT oil if you like, that's more of a supplement. Olive oil, suet, tallow, these are animal fats. So any natural fat is perfectly fine. All these animal fats are perfectly fine and beautiful. So there's no need to avoid them. You can absolutely cook up your vegetables in your bacon grease. That's perfectly fine if that's something you enjoy. You also don't have to if you're more comfortable using avocado oil instead of bacon grease or using avocado oil instead of butter. That is completely your prerogative. You are allowed to do that. So pick and choose things from this list that you enjoy. Like I was saying, the hardest people for me to help get results is those who are really strict vegan or vegetarian because they can't follow this list because they can't choose anything from column 1. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, sometimes we get people who say, I don't like vegetables. And I have no problem with all the animal protein, but I don't like vegetables, and usually those are the people who consider themselves very picky because maybe they've, over the years, they've been told it's so terrible that they don't eat vegetables and all this and that. But actually, I can get those people results. So if you're someone who's like, I don't like vegetables, but I definitely can eat a steak or eat a few chicken thighs or whatever it is, then focus on that. You can still do really well. And then let's see, approved additions down at the bottom. I'll kind of rattle these off, but again, these are not things that you need to include. We just want you to include one or more item from each of the 3 columns at the top. And then for approved additions, we've got nuts, seeds, herbs, nuts and seeds. Okay. So any nuts and seeds are perfectly fine. They're a nice balance of protein, fat, and carbs. They're not like super high in carbs, right? Herbs and spices, as long as they're sugar-free, should be fine. Unflavored collagen. I do have flavored collagen brands that I like if you want like a chocolate collagen or a vanilla collagen, but I didn't teach you this week what to look for on a food label. And so I really don't want you choosing a chocolate collagen that's loaded with sugar or artificial sweeteners, right? So just to keep it safe, an unflavored collagen. A third a cup of berries could be eaten alongside your meal. Again, we don't want to eat naked carbs, right? Fruit and berries are pretty high in carbs. So you really want to eat it with your meal. So with the meal that you have above, maybe you do the beef stir fry with eggplant and asparagus and broccoli or whatever, cooked in avocado oil. There's your meal. And then you can have some berries immediately afterwards, and those berries are not going to impact your blood sugar the same because you ate a bunch of protein and fat to buffer it, to offset it. Certain dairy would also be approved. In fact, most dairy would be approved. So cheese, perfectly fine. And ideally with all dairy, you choose whole fat dairy. Why would I say that when it comes to dairy, you should choose whole fat dairy? It comes back again to this. It comes back again to if you choose low fat, let's say yogurt, you could choose full fat yogurt or you could choose low fat yogurt. If you choose the low fat yogurt, you're choosing a yogurt that's higher in carbohydrates. It's higher in the 2 macronutrients that are going to spike your blood sugar the most. So when you choose a full fat Greek yogurt, you have all that beautiful natural fat from the dairy to offset the carbs and protein, to offset the blood sugar impact from those. Yep, yep. And yeah, like Marcella is saying, they also often, when you do low fat, fat has flavor, right? Fat provides really good flavor. So when you remove the fat, what these food manufacturers often do is they add sugar, which is a carb, right? They add sugar to make it taste better because you just removed the tasty part, right? So when it comes to dairy, dairy's totally fine as long, no, it is approved. Dairy's totally fine as long as you tolerate dairy, of course. I'm not telling people who are lactose intolerant to go add dairy to their diets. But yeah, always choosing whole fat. The higher fat dairy choices, the better. So cheese, if you can, choose whole fat cheese. Half and half, and heavy cream. Heavy whipping cream is actually even better than half and half because it's even higher in fat and therefore lower in carbs. So that's what my clients and I are all putting in our coffee every day. We use heavy cream, and once you do, you will not go back. I have converted so many people at this point to heavy whipping cream. We call it HWC. So when you guys see us saying HWC, we're talking about heavy whipping cream. It is so delicious and decadent. Like I said, yogurt, you're going to want to choose plain yogurt, not a flavored sweetened yogurt, and choose whole fat. You could do plain cottage cheese. If you have two choices, low fat or reduced fat versus whole milk cottage cheese, whole fat, choose the whole fat. So that's the dairy that would be permitted off the top of my head. And then just always choosing whole fat whenever possible. I also added a little note on the side that says tomatoes and onions are also okay. I didn't include them on this list initially because they are a little bit higher in carbs, but they're not terrible. And in the context of an otherwise low carb meal, they're fine. And I just get a lot of people asking during this challenge, what about onions? What about tomatoes? And so I just am making that disclaimer right now. I want to be really clear. This is not a comprehensive list. We only have 5 days together, so we're just trying to get this, get you guys results and keep it as simple as possible. So there's a lot of foods to enjoy on this list, and you don't have to eat anything you don't like. Yeah, Janice says heavy whipping cream is my fave. It's my fave too. Guys, I'm actually so bummed. I woke up this morning, started to make my coffee, pulled what I thought I bought yesterday. I thought I bought heavy whipping cream, pulled it out of the fridge, and to my dismay, it was half and half. And I was so bummed about it because like I said, once you go heavy whipping cream, you don't go back to half and half. So approved beverages. You could, obviously water is approved, right? So you can do still or sparkling water. There's a lot of really fun sparkling waters on the market, but you can also buy or make your own. So like I have a Soda Stream, so I can actually make my own fizzy water, and then you can infuse it if you want. You could do this with either still water or sparkling water. So you can infuse your water with lemon, lime, cucumber is so, in my opinion, like so beautiful and refreshing. Herbs like mint, so you could do like a cucumber mint infused water. So that's a fun way to do it on your own. There's also lots of sparkling waters on the market. Some of them are not as transparent. Most of them are not very transparent, like LaCroix, for example. Yeah, Deb. LaCroix would be okay. I don't have an issue with these sparkling waters, but the brand that I like is Spindrift. And the reason I really like Spindrift is because they're very transparent about their ingredients, and they use real fruit. Like they use real lemon juice if you buy the lemon. They use real lime juice if you buy the lime. Versus other brands like LaCroix, they say natural flavors, and we don't really know what those are. But that being said, oh my goodness, you guys, is club soda okay? Yes. And any of these sparkling waters are like leaps and bounds better. Even if you don't know the full ingredient list, they're leaps and bounds better than like a Diet Coke or a regular Coke, right? So still or sparkling water, unsweetened coffee or tea. So like I said, and then half and half, or preferably heavy whipping cream. Yeah. And I see so much love coming for the heavy whipping cream in the chat. Yeah. So the heavy whipping cream, or HWC. And that would be preferred over the half and half even, because it's higher fat. And I'm telling you guys, you stir that into your coffee. It doesn't water your coffee down like the way half and half does. It's really delicious. Agave would be considered a sugar. It's like honey, it's going to impact your blood sugar. So I would stay away from agave. I will go over the approved sweeteners here for you because I've done this challenge enough times to know you guys always ask. Like I already see the questions coming in. Stevia, yeah, monk fruit, stevia. You guys are asking. So here's the list of approved sweeteners. Monk fruit, stevia, erythritol, and allulose. And the reason that I've approved these is because they are, in my opinion, they're definitely not harmful. And I think that, not I think, and they don't impact your blood sugar. Okay, they're not going to have a significant impact on your blood sugar. So if you want to do monk fruit, stevia, erythritol, or allulose, those are all permissible. Let's see, what do I want to say about this? You need to be very careful when you buy a package of sweetener that claims to be a monk fruit sweetener, for example. You need to turn over the package and find the ingredients list and see what's really in it. There are a lot of them that have all kinds of ingredients that you're not even going to recognize. A lot of them have real sugar in them. So it might claim to be, so actually, I'll give you guys a really good example. That makes me so angry. Okay, stevia in the raw. How many of you guys type me in the chat if you are familiar with or have heard of stevia in the raw? It's the most popular little stevia packets, right? You can get these little packets at Starbucks to sweeten your coffee, and it's called stevia in the raw. Guess what the first ingredient in stevia in the raw is? It's not stevia, it's sugar. Okay, first ingredient, primary ingredient in stevia in the raw is sugar, not stevia. So I'm seeing a lot of you guys saying, yep, you're familiar with stevia in the raw. So like shame on them, first of all, really makes me angry. But second of all, that just, again, comes back to the importance of everybody here. We all have to do our due diligence in turning over the package. You can't take the front of the package at face value. They can say whatever they want. They can say it's low carb. They can say it's keto. They can say it's natural. They can say all kinds of things on the front of the package. We have to do our due diligence, turn over the package, find that ingredients list and read it. And that's where you'll see that there's sugar before there's stevia in the raw. Again, shame on them. That's one example, but there's a lot of these food manufacturers making products that they're saying, oh, this is a monk fruit sweetener. It's not pure monk fruit. Oftentimes it's a blend of monk fruit and erythritol, and that's fine. Those are both on this list, right? But you have to look at your package. You have to look at the ingredients list. So these are what you can use to sweeten your coffee or tea, or if you want to make a sweet treat, or if you want to sweeten your yogurt, maybe you buy plain Greek yogurt and you sweeten it yourself. You add a little vanilla extract and you add a few stevia drops or whatever it is. So there's lots of options here, okay? So let's go over what's not listed on what's not listed on here, okay? Because unfortunately, I added this slide because unfortunately, I didn't realize this would happen, but people thought they were following the list, but they were including these kind of foods. So just to be super crystal clear, what's not listed that we're not going to eat for the sake of the challenge for the 1 meal a day. 1 meal a day is all I'm asking you to test. So follow these guidelines for 1 meal a day. What we're not going to include with those meals is grains or grain products. So grain products would be flour, right? Like any kind of flour is or I should say wheat flour, right? Is like a grain flour. Rye flour, right? There's different oat flour, right? These are grains. So we're not going to do grains and we're not going to do grain products. And then another grain product would be anything made from flour, like pasta and bread, right? We're not going to do beans and legumes. Like I said earlier, beans are really a good source of carbohydrates, not a good source of protein. In order to get the same amount of protein from beans as you would from something like a 4-ounce, little bitty, I think it's like a 4-ounce piece of steak, you have to eat 3 cups of beans to get the same amount of protein. Do you know how many carbohydrates are in 3 cups of beans? Never mind how you're going to feel afterwards. You're probably going to be so bloated and so gassy. And could you even stomach 3 cups of beans, first of all? But just imagine, and the carb load. I mean, your blood sugar, if you ate 3 cups of beans, is going to spike. So we don't want to do beans and legumes. We're not going to do starchy veggies. So this will be like your potatoes. We're not going to do starchy alternative flours. So there's a lot of, so just to give you guys an example of like an alternative flour would be a tapioca starch or an arrowroot flour or cassava flour. Where these are often found that you might not be aware is in health foods that are maybe gluten-free. So a lot of times like gluten-free crackers, for example, or a gluten-free bread will be made with tapioca starch or arrowroot flour or cassava flour instead of wheat flour. So they're gluten-free, but they're just as high in carbohydrates as the wheat flour. So we're going to try to stay away from the alternative flours. We're not doing juice or smoothies. And I don't recommend milk as a beverage. So while dairy is fine, and even if you needed to use a little bit of milk in a recipe and divide it into 6 portions, it's like a little bit of milk in that situation is not a problem. But when we're talking about milk, drinking an 8-ounce or a 12-ounce glass of milk or a 16-ounce glass of milk, not a good idea from a blood sugar perspective. Even whole milk is not a great choice. And then fruit. I mean, I'm not trying to demonize fruit. I love fruit myself, but again, for the sake of this week, I want you guys to really see, and then in the future, test it for yourself alongside some protein and fat. But we really want to see you guys get your blood sugar way down today. And we're going to do that by following these guidelines for just 1 meal a day this week. So you can go off the rails and eat how you want for the other meal, but in order to get results for day 2 of the challenge, which was our promise to you, we really want you to follow the guidelines here. No, chickpea pasta would be a no. Again, chickpeas are a legume or a bean, and they're really high in carbohydrates. Are they healthier than a wheat-based pasta? Yeah, I do believe that. Like a black bean pasta or a chickpea pasta or a lentil pasta, I think that they're healthier than a wheat pasta, a flour-based pasta, but they are not healthy from a blood sugar perspective. Again, you can test it yourself some other time. But for this challenge, we're just going to stick to this list. So let's see. I think that we're pretty clear on that. At this point, you guys usually start asking very specific questions about very specific products. And again, we're just trying to get you results. This is not a comprehensive list, so I can't go through every single ingredient that you guys might be asking about. For salad dressing, you could do a vinegar based or vinegar based would be great. I didn't have vinegar on the list, huh? Yeah, that is a valid question. And then you could do like a ranch or something, but it would ideally be a ranch that's made from an avocado oil based mayonnaise and not a vegetable oil based mayonnaise. That's the hardest thing with salad dressings is they're often made with crappy oils, that we want to avoid. That reminds me, I need to add that to the not listed is the vegetable oils. That could be a whole topic in and of itself. But again, just remember that vegetable oils are not made from vegetables. Okay. So canola is not a vegetable. Grapeseed oil, that's not a vegetable. These are highly processed, rancid before they're even bottled. They're very inexpensive. They're bleached and deodorized before they're bottled, because they have a rancid stench as they're being made, and then they deodorize them so they don't stink anymore and they taste super neutral. These are not healthy. They're more appropriately called industrial seed oils, not vegetable oils. Soybean oil, cottonseed oil, these are not good choices. So we really want to stick to the ones on the list that I shared. And so what we want you to do today is we really want to prove to you that you don't need to eat less food. You just need to eat the right foods. Okay. So what we want you to do is we want you to eat a nice big portion following the guidelines I just shared. So do not skimp today. We want you guys eating a nice, generous portion. So if you're still hungry, you didn't eat enough. If you're hungry 2 hours later, you didn't eat enough. So really fill up on mealtime. Get that nice big 12 to 16 ounce steak. Have 3 chicken thighs. If you're having breakfast for dinner, have 3 eggs with bacon or sausage, right? So really fill up. We want you to be satiated, and do not skimp. I really want to prove to you guys today that you can eat a really nice big meal and your blood sugar is going to stay right here. So let me get into what our kind of threshold is for a blood sugar spike. So we're going to follow the same steps as yesterday. And then what I have at the very bottom of my screen here is a little a goal for you. Our goal is to see less than a 30-point increase in your blood sugar. So when you follow these guidelines, you should not see your blood sugar spike more than 30 points. So again, you're gonna follow the guidelines today, and you're gonna test one meal, either lunch or dinner today. You're gonna sit down. Step one: sit down right before your first bite of food. Test your blood sugar. That's your baseline number. That's your pre-prandial or pre-meal. We call it your baseline number here. Step two: you're gonna test your blood sugar again 60 to 90 minutes later. We're looking for where your blood sugar is going to peak, and we're going to assume it's somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes from your first bite of food. Okay, so I know it says 90 minutes here, but really you're looking for somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes. So test your blood sugar again. That's considered your post-meal number, also known as your post-prandial number. Step three: you subtract your baseline number from your post-meal number, your post-prandial number. This is how many points that specific meal raised your blood sugar. So right then and there, you're going to determine, did you stay within that 30-point threshold? What's really cool is a lot of you guys today are going to see that your blood sugar only goes up like 5 points, 8 points. Maybe it goes up like 25 points. And really, the lower the better, right? So our goal is to keep it under 30. Ideally, actually, we'd kind of like to see it under a 20-point increase. But the reason I give you guys a 30-point threshold is because of those meter errors that we talked about in day one. So our glucose meters, our blood sugar meters, do have a 15% margin of error. And so it could kind of make it look like you had a bigger spike than you did. So you get up to a 30-point increase. The lower, the better. What's interesting is some of you guys will actually see that you eat, you test your blood sugar afterwards, and your blood sugar actually drops. So that's just another example that you ate in a very blood sugar friendly way. You started your meal and it didn't impact your blood sugar. Yes, and Marcella says that blood sugar meter error is a real thing. I tested it. Yeah, like I said yesterday, you can test the same drop of blood with 2 different test strips, put them in your meter, and it's going to spit out 2 different numbers from the same sample of blood. So there's a meter error for sure. And so what's going to happen is some of you guys are going to come into the Facebook group and share in the day 2 post, right? This is what the day 2 post looks like. So you guys are going to do the same thing as yesterday, and you're going to drop a number in the chat following our guidelines. And some of you guys might see that your blood sugar went up 32 points or 38 points or something like that. And you're going to go, I don't get it. I followed the guidelines. And usually what we're going to tell you is, well, we're going to chalk that up to a meter error. The other thing that might happen is you do spike 38 points or 32 points or 45 points. And we go, oh, did you eat something that was not listed? And then people go, yeah, I did. I've had people go, yeah, I had half an English muffin. I had half a potato. I had a few fries. I had a Diet Coke, surprisingly. Doesn't have sugar, but it can spike your blood sugar. So I've had people do this challenge. And then when we say anytime we see more than a 30-point increase, it's either that meter error or somebody ate something that was not on the list. And so, again, you guys are welcome to test all that you want and test different foods that you're interested in. But that's kind of what we're going to see today. Is our hope is to see everybody here eat in a way and test a meal and get their blood sugar within that 30-point threshold. And that is something to celebrate. So when you do that today, not if, but when you do that today and this week, celebrate that. That's a big deal. You ate a meal. Hopefully it was really delicious and you enjoyed it. And you saw less than a 30-point increase, which is great. So like I was just saying, if a meal increases your blood sugar by more than 30 points, take a look at the meal and find the culprit. Did you have that half an English muffin thinking that it wouldn't impact your blood sugar that way? You know? So This is what's so empowering about the way that we're teaching you to test your blood sugar before and after is you don't have to follow my advice blindly. We're showing you, you're going to see firsthand how these foods impact your blood sugar. So yeah, we're right at the hour mark. So I think I did a good job managing my time today. And then that's what the day 2 post looks like. You will get an email later today with today's replay and a link directly to the day 2 post. So you can drop your number in there. And then replays are available under the featured tab at the top of the Facebook group. So if you can't find it in your email, then just go to the top of the 5-day challenge Facebook group, under the featured tab. If you see somebody looking for the replay, please help them out. Tell them, look under the featured tab at the top of the Facebook group. Let's see what we're talking about tomorrow. Guys, tomorrow is going to be a really good day. Tomorrow I'm really excited because we talk about a notorious little hormone called insulin. And most people are not actually familiar. Like, everybody here has probably heard of insulin, but most people are not aware of like what it is, what it does, the very strong influence it has on your body, including all the symptoms that come along with having type 2 diabetes. And also there's a big misunderstanding that people with type 2 diabetes don't make enough insulin, when the reality is they're producing so much insulin. Their insulin levels are so high that they've developed a resistance to it. It's called hyperinsulinemia. And if you have insulin resistance here in type 2 diabetes, I can guarantee if you were accurately diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, your insulin levels are really high, not low. And so we're going to get into that tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. I know you guys have questions. Like I said, Callie and Tiana are in the Facebook group supporting you guys this week. We've got thousands of members. We do ask that rather than asking us about specific ingredients that are not listed on my list for today, please just try your best to eat from the list that we shared. It's not comprehensive. I understand that you guys have foods in your kitchen and in your cabinets that are not on the list. Please just try to stick to the list today, because, you know, there's so many people in this challenge and we're just doing our best to keep up with you all and support you all. I did see someone ask a question about almond milk, if it's like really just almond milk, and doesn't have a bunch of, you know, read the ingredients list and not sweetened, something like that. I understand those of you with dairy sensitivities, that might be something that would be permissible. So like, look at the carb count. If it's like 2, it should be like 2 or maybe 4 grams of carbs per serving. So it should be pretty low carb. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm really looking forward to day 3 tomorrow. And we will see you over in the Facebook group, and we look forward to reading through your day 2 results. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Everybody. Hello, good morning, good afternoon. This is day 1 of our 5-day blood sugar challenge. Go ahead and say hello in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me and see me. That's always really helpful, so I know I'm not talking to myself. But yeah, this is day 1 of our 5-day blood sugar challenge. We're going to take a few minutes to hang out together here while we wait for everybody to find us. It often takes a minute for people to do so on day 1. But I can see that there are some people here. Hello, Carol and Pamela. Welcome. Yay, we've got Cynthia, Beverly, Janet. Hi, good morning. Good morning or afternoon. I'm on Pacific time. I'm in California. So Connie, Janice. Hi, Janice. Sandra Lee, Peggy, Greg. Hi, Greg. I see some familiar faces here. Tara Lynn, Connie, Robert. Awesome. We've got a good sized group here. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. April, Sharon, Paula, Lisa, Robert. Okay, good. Awesome. You guys did the hardest part, was you found my live on day 1 of the challenge. So I'm really glad y'all are here. We got more people joining. Oh my gosh, I can't even keep up with all of you. Sue, David, Becky, Leslie, Gwendolyn, Kathy, Suzanne, Donna, Julie, Thomas, Nevelyn, Laura, Colleen. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Georgianne. Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Elaine. Like I said, I see lots of familiar names. Cool. Well, we'll hang out for just a couple minutes while we wait for everybody to find us, and then we'll dive into day one of our 5 day blood sugar challenge. I'm sure, as usual, we probably have some repeat customers here, which we absolutely love. And then some of you guys, this could be your very first time doing the 5 day blood sugar challenge with us. So welcome. I'll take a little time at the beginning of today's training to kind of introduce myself and my team. And then we'll dive into today's training. But like I keep repeating, we're going to hang out together for just a few minutes and make sure everybody finds us today. Hi, Terry. Hi, Susan. Hi, Farah. Aw, I love the familiar faces. So go ahead and share with us. Is this your first time doing the 5 day blood sugar challenge? If it's your first time, type a 1 in the chat. If it's your second time, type a 2. If you've lost count, tell us in the chat. We know, again, we have people who come back over and over again because we cover a lot this week. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Roger, April, Vicky, Rhonda, Beatrice. Okay, cool. I see lots of ones rolling